So I quit my job, and to be honest, I found it pretty stressful. So in this video, we're going to go through the 10 decision-making frameworks and 10 questions that I asked myself to help me make the right decision. I wanted to leave the world of consulting and go into the world of online education, and I'll go into that in a bit more detail. But I never really felt like I was making the wrong decision. I just felt a lot of fear and uncertainty. It's not easy to quit, and a lot is made of the courage it takes to start something, to start a business or to start a new habit, but not a lot is made of the courage it takes to quit something. So I'm not in an objectively risky position, but it still feels scary and feels uncertain. So I thought I would just share all the decision-making frameworks and questions that I used, because if you're thinking about quitting or you're just thinking about your career in general, you might find them useful. Just before we get into that though, I want to say that I'm not encouraging anyone to quit. I am just sharing my thought process. Your situation is highly contextual to your life, and my situation is highly contextual to my life. I have been very lucky in many ways as well. So I'm just sharing my thought process, and hopefully it'll be useful for some of you. So the first thing we're going to talk about is why we work. And the question that I ask myself is, why am I working? And I've seen a couple of things on this, but the 5 that I've settled on are money, content, purpose, people, and status. Just wanted to jump in here quickly and give some more context to these 5 reasons before I sort of explain how I feel about each one, because I don't feel like I really said enough about them. And they're basically the 5 reasons why we work. So we take a step back and it's like, why do we do the work that we do? If we had loads and loads of money, what might be the other motivators for our work? And for me, I'm in a position where money isn't the only thing that I have to think about. I can think about the content of my work, and I can think about the people that I work with, and status and purpose. And that's like a privilege. I think historically people have, obviously had to think about money most of the time, but now lots of us can think about these things. So that's kind of why I'm using this framework, and I thought that would be useful to share. Also, I didn't really give any context about me, just completely forgot. I'm 25 years old. I was doing this job in London, and I had been there for 1 year before I quit. Okay, so returning to the more professional Tintin in the kitchen. On the money side of things, this was probably the thing that caused me the most stress. I was earning around £30,000 in my consulting job, which is an excellent graduate salary. It's about the average salary in the UK. And this was the thing that I felt most nervous about giving up, a stable income. So in the future, I'm going to be earning money through educational tutoring and also working part-time for a company that's trying to build an online education business. But I'm effectively going to be self-employed, and that's a lot less stable than what I was previously doing. And that was the thing that caused me most stress. I've got to pay my rent and pay the bills. When I think long-term, over the next 5 years at my consulting job, I was probably going to be earning somewhere between £60,000 to £80,000. And I think over the next 5 years, I can actually earn more than that in the world of online education, online entrepreneurship, however that goes for me. So that was my long-term thinking, and I think taking the decision now to quit will hopefully pay off long-term in the money area. For content, this was the main reason why I actually quit. I didn't find the work particularly meaningful, and I didn't find it that fun. The people in the company that I was working for were amazing, and I loved working with them, but I didn't particularly enjoy what we were working on, and education is the world that I really love to work in. So content-wise, that was a big factor in why I quit. I find the actual tasks and activities of education, like teaching and sharing information, as opposed to working with clients and creating presentations and Excel spreadsheets, whatever it is, I found that less enjoyable than education. And that also fits into the purpose section. I find it a lot more purposeful and meaningful to work in this area. And I'm not saying that consulting isn't meaningful at all. Loads of people find lots of meaning in it and enjoy it a lot, but just for me, it was the wrong thing. Final one is status. And to be honest, status is not something I think about a huge amount. I definitely got some pleasure from having a traditional graduate job, and when I was making YouTube videos, it was definitely nice to be able to say, yeah, I'm making YouTube videos, but I also have a kind of normal graduate job, which definitely gave me a little bit of status. But if I'm gonna optimize for any kind of status, I would much rather have status as someone who's like an online teacher of some kind, or just like shares useful information, rather than getting my sense of status from consulting, if that makes sense. So those are the 5 reasons that I've settled on why we work. And when I asked myself the question, why am I working? I thought, actually, I'm working on the wrong things for the wrong reasons. I need to change. So that's why I quit. Just jumping in again here quickly to mention something that I forgot to put in there, which is a diary extract from when I was at university, and it really relates to the people and content areas of those 5 reasons. So I wrote this on my phone, because I keep a diary on my phone, and I was in my 3rd year of university studying for my final year exams, and I was in the library clearly having I guess, slightly a boring day, or maybe unmotivated day, uninspired. And this is what I wrote. So on the 22nd of March 2019, I wrote down, just a comparison to an office job. Working in the library at uni isn't dissimilar to working in an office because you have work to do, you can take breaks and eat lunch with your friends, you have to commute in, etc. What I've realized is that my friends being here don't make it worth it, they make it bearable. It's really nice to have them because otherwise the work would be really boring and the day would be terrible, so they make it more tolerable. So when you think if you're in a fun office doing a boring job, you still wouldn't look forward to doing the work or enjoy the job necessarily. The work has to be good too. The friends make a bad job bearable. But I don't want to be living a bearable life. I want an active, enjoyable, fulfilling life, and just working with your friends doesn't do that. So I find that really interesting because one of the things that I always said about my job, when people ask me how was work and stuff like that, I'd always say that the people were amazing, but I didn't know how I felt particularly about the actual content of the work. So it turns out I'd felt that way before at university. I'd felt the same way about my degree. I studied classics at UCL, and classics is like ancient history and Latin and Greek and that kind of thing. And I clearly didn't find it super inspiring, or it wasn't the thing that I wanted to be working on in the future. And so yeah, just seeing that in my diary made me feel like I had felt that way before, and actually the work that I am working on matters to me. It's not just about the people that I'm working with, and for some people that might be enough. It might just be about the fact that you're working with great people, but for me it just didn't motivate me enough to stay there. So I thought that was worth sharing. Returning once again to the more professional Tintin in the kitchen. The next one is called the quitting framework, and the question you ask yourself is, why am I quitting? So this is from Stephen Bartlett's book, Happy, Sexy, Millionaire, which is an amazing book. And there's this quitting framework in it. So you ask yourself the following questions. Are you thinking about quitting? Yes. Why are you thinking about quitting? It's hard or it sucks? If it's hard, then is the challenge worth the potential reward? Yes, don't quit. No, quit. And then on the other side, it sucks. Do you believe you could make it not suck? Yes. Is the effort it would take to make it not suck worth it? Yes, don't quit. No, quit. And then do you believe you could make it not suck? No, I've tried my best. Quit. So that's the quitting framework, and to be honest, it's actually so effective because it's so simple. I'm on the side of it sucks. My job in consulting didn't suck, but I'm not quitting because it was hard. So I was on that side of the framework, and I thought that the effort to make it not suck wasn't worth it in my case. And so I ended up quitting. When you are thinking about quitting and then you go through that really simple framework, it just gives you a really nice answer to your question, and then that's something to think about. So when I ask myself, why am I quitting? I'm quitting because it sucks and I don't enjoy it that much. So the next one is 51% decisions. And the question that I ask myself here is, how certain am I about quitting? So this is another thing from Stephen Bartlett's book, Happy, Sexy, Millionaire, and he gets it from Barack Obama. He asks Obama, how do you deal with making the difficult decisions? And Obama says that when he has a difficult decision, the first thing that he thinks about is that he might get it wrong, and he is going to be okay with the fact that he might get it wrong. And then he will try and gather all the information and data and get to 51% certainty. Once you get to 51% certainty, then you can be at peace with the decision that you're making, because 100% certainty is unrealistic. And then when I asked myself what level of certainty am I at about this decision, I realized I'm actually probably at 80-90% certainty that I want to quit. And I just felt stressed. I didn't have that final 10 to 20%. And recognizing that you're probably never going to get that 10 to 20% is actually half the battle in being able to make the decision and be at peace with the decision. 80% certain is pretty certain. And given that, Barack Obama is making decisions on 51% certainty, I think that 80% is pretty good. The next one is quitting on a good day. And so the question I ask myself is, am I quitting on a good day? The reason for this one is because there's a lot of evidence to suggest that we don't make good decisions when we're feeling emotional. And if we're having a bad day, we're more likely to be feeling emotional and annoyed with our job and whatever it is. So we should try and quit on a good day when things are going well, when we're actually enjoying it, when we have a good time with our colleagues. And that way we can make a decision. Because if we're still feeling like quitting on a good day, then there's probably something there to think about. I definitely had this. I definitely had good days in the office and thought, yeah, I still want to quit. This still isn't the right place for me, even when I was having a good day. So that was quite a strong indicator that I was doing the right thing. The devil I know is better than the devil that I don't. So the question I ask myself here is it worth potentially finding a worse devil than the one I currently know. And my job was not the devil. It definitely wasn't that bad, but I did think that I was getting comfortable in a situation that wasn't ideal for me. Life is uncertain, and we often get comfortable in bad situations, and because we're more worried about what the uncertainty might involve, and so we think it's better to be familiar and comfortable with something that's less than ideal or not that great, that we're not enjoying, and not risking finding out something that's potentially worse. There's a really nice graphic from Stephen Bartlett's book again, which looks like this, and it just highlights that to get from a place of unhappiness to happiness, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. And in my case, it's not so much unhappiness to happiness, it's more just unfulfilled and unmotivated to a place of enjoyment and fulfillment. So there's just going to be a lot of ups and downs on that journey, and accepting that is part of the process. The next one is the importance of learning. And so the question I ask myself here is, what am I learning? Learning is one of the most important things because it's going to take you in a certain direction. And I realized that I'd started learning about things that I didn't particularly want to learn about. So when I started, I wanted to learn a lot about the corporate world and working in that type of job and consulting as an industry. And then I realized after a certain period, I was just starting to learn about becoming a better consultant. When I thought about that, it's not really what I wanted to be learning about. What I want to be learning about is education and psychology and personal development and human beings and that kind of thing. So I realized I've got to start learning about the things that I want to learn about, and consulting wasn't taking me towards that. There's a saying that you should spend the first third of your life learning, the second third of your life earning, and the first third of your life returning. And by returning, it means returning the things that you have earned and possibly learned. And so I'm definitely in the learning phase, and I'm trying to do as much of that as possible. And it sort of wasn't in the right area for me. The next one is regret minimization, which is just a fancy way of saying have no regrets. And the question that I ask myself here is, what will I wish I had done when I'm on my deathbed? And this was a pretty easy one because it was definitely quit my job, try and get involved in education, make money online and make YouTube videos and have fun doing those things and learning lots of things, instead of staying in a job that didn't particularly motivate me, that didn't really fulfill me, and that I didn't really want to stay in for very long. So that was kind of an easy one when I thought about it in the context of my life, that I should definitely quit and not lose any more time. The next one is unskewing the scales. So this is from the book, Will It Make the Boat Go Faster? And I made a video on that, so you can watch it here. And the question that I ask myself is, what is the risk of not doing anything? And that's because our scales, our decision-making scales, are skewed towards inaction. So when we think about big decisions, we often think not doing anything is better than doing something. And there's a way of overriding this, and it's by asking ourselves, what is the risk of not doing anything? And for me, the risk of not doing anything was losing more time and not doing the things that I wanted to do. So I thought, when I thought about that question, it made me realize that there is a cost to doing nothing, that doing nothing actually has a risk in itself as well. So when you realize there's a risk in whatever decision you make, it actually makes it a bit easier to make what feels like the riskier decision. Another thing that I really liked from that book was this saying, fear is not a stop sign. So I definitely felt a lot of fear in this decision at times, but just remembering that fear doesn't mean that you're doing the wrong thing, it just means that you are scared. And that's kind of it. It's probably because you're uncomfortable and it's uncertain, but it doesn't mean that you should stop. The second last one is about your boss's job. And the question that I ask myself here is, do I want my boss's job? And this gets you thinking about the future. It gets you thinking, in 5 years' time, do I want to be working as my boss? And for me, I realized I actually didn't want that job. And there might be parts that you enjoy and parts that you don't enjoy, but I didn't particularly want to have my boss's job. And when you realize that you're actually kind of working towards something that you don't really want, then you're maybe doing the wrong thing. And it doesn't mean that there's not useful experiences and learnings in doing that thing. But after a while, you've got to come to a point where you've got to start building the life you want and working towards the thing that you want, and you might just be in the wrong place. Not wanting your boss's job is a pretty strong indicator that you are in the wrong job. It might be that you are quite happy in your job and you just don't want your boss's job and you want to stay where you are. But for anyone wanting to sort of move forward and learn and grow and all that kind of stuff, then I think it's a pretty good indicator that you're doing the wrong thing. The final one is talk it through. And the question I asked myself here is, what did the people whose opinions I value most think about my decision? I would not have been able to make this decision without a lot of people helping me and talking it through with me. And I think relying on your friends and family and the people who know you best is so important. They can see your situation objectively. They're not at direct consequence or dealing with the direct consequences of the decision themselves. So they can actually take a step back and help you, whereas you can't separate yourself from the decision. So it's very difficult to be rational sometimes, and I really relied on certain people. So I definitely think if you're struggling, you should talk it through with the people who are close to you. Something to note on this is that there will always be people when you're making a big decision who will tell you that you're doing the wrong thing, or who will be pessimistic and cynical. So just bear that in mind and know that that is part of the process, and you have to learn to block those people out. Just think about those people whose opinions you really, really value, and you can focus on listening to them. So those are all the things that I thought about to help me quit my job, and I asked myself all those questions, and it really, really helped me, and it helped me make the right decision. I feel totally at peace with it. So if you are thinking about quitting, or just thinking about your career in general, I hope that was really helpful. If you want to see a video about a day in my life whilst I was in consulting, then watch this video here. But otherwise, I hope you got some value. Please like and subscribe, because it really helps with the YouTube algorithm, and I'll see you in the next one. Nice.